Hi, Julie here with paperbeadcrafts.com, and today I'm going to show you what this mess is all about. Welcome to paper bead glazing in 2017. I have already done a paper bead glazing video, but it was done a few years ago. I think 2014, maybe even 2013. I think 2014. So a few things have changed since then. I've gotten my bugs worked out, my kinks worked out on the way I do this, and I've fine-tuned it. I made myself a couple of new paper bead drying racks since then, and I'm still using the PC petrifier, but this time I'm actually really just using Vibrance. I had been using fast finish decoupage. I had bought a gallon of it years ago, and I finally ran out of it. Actually, I have so little left that it's not worth working with anymore. So I'm starting to buy Vibrance by the pint. 16 ounces. And I bet I get this from Amazon. It's made by Janice May. And to me, I think it's the best thing out there for doing your top coats on your beads. The PC petrifier is a wood hardener, and it is what I use for the first 4 coats on my beads. And basically what it does is it soaks into your paper so that it will harden it. It's meant for wood, restoring old wood, making it hard again, and preserving it. It's for rotted wood. That's what it says right on the bottle. But for paper, it'll soak into the paper and make it hard. I actually haven't soaked beads made with this stuff in a cup of water. I might try it in the future, but I just haven't done it. And I string my beads like this in order to make sure that this glaze gets down inside also. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the steps of how I go ahead and glaze my beads. And if you watched my previous video, I showed you how to make these weights made out of fishing sinkers. These are 3/4 inch, and I used 16 gauge wire through the center to make my little loop, and then I used my paperclip S hooks that I like to make. Basically, it is a jumbo paperclip that I cut into 4 segments and then made into little S's. And that's what I use to hook onto the bottom of my strand of beads to hang it up when it's wonky. And if you go ahead and click the link, I'll provide a link on the screen in a second, basically. Maybe. We'll see. It'll be in the comments anyway, well, actually in the description on how to get to that video. It's really easy, it's short, it's fast, and you can get the sinkers on Amazon.com. You might even find them in your favorite sports store or something, who knows. But anyway, I have some more beads that I need to string, and so what this video is going to include is what I used for my fishing line and how I actually go ahead and string my beads. Okay, so basically I'm going to cut off, what you want to do is you want to measure the height of your bead drying rack. Mine happens to be 18 inches long or 18 inches high. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of fishing line that is actually 18 inches. Because by the time you put the loops on both ends, you'll end up being just the right length for your bead drying rack if you have one. So I'm going to cut mine to 18 because that's what I have. And I'm giving myself a little bit of finger room on each end. It doesn't have to be exact, just close. So there's my 12, and here is approximately 16. And I use wire cutters for this, but scissors works too. So I just do that. And I'm not going to bore you by actually stringing all these on, but I'm going to show you how I do the loops at each end. I use crimp beads. And I'm going to use size 4mm, and these, again, I got these from Amazon, and these are antique brass. And so basically what you're going to need flat nose pliers, and I'm not good using my good ones for these because this is not jewelry. This is bead drying or bead glazing. So I like to put 2 crimp beads on for better security, because in my experience, sometimes the crimp beads will come off. And if you use 2 of them, there's less of a chance of doing that. And these are cheap enough you can do that. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and put the 2 crimp beads on, take your short end, make a loop, and put the end through both crimp beads. And the little dowels that I have on my bead drying rack are 3/16 of an inch in diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and make my loop a little bit smaller. So it's, 1/4 inch or so. And then I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the 2 crimp beads. And make sure that they're secure. And then this one is basically, this end is done, and hopefully you'll never have to pull it out. Because I like to reuse these over and over and over again. Some of these strands here have been reused over and over again. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, maybe more. You use them until you can't use them anymore, basically, is what it is. So that's how you do the first loop. And then to do the second loop, I've got a strand of beads all ready to go for the second loop. Oh, sure. I'll show you how to put on a couple of beads. Let me grab this one. Only just a couple. I mean, this would be the boring part if I did the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to put the point down on this one because it's a triangle, it's a cone. And then I'm going to make sure the point is down again. And when you're doing beads, if you do 2 beads that are flat on both ends, you can cut apart the black Mr. Coffee stirrers into like tiny 1/8 inch long pieces and put them between your beads to separate them, so that way they don't stick together too bad. And you can do that with these 2 if you want. But one thing to remember, after each coat, and allow them to dry, you're going to want to break them apart. These haven't been glazed yet, but I'll get into that later. I like to dip mine 4 times in the PC Petrifier and 2 times in the Vibrance. So I'll show you now what we're going to do at the end. I just put this binder clip here just so my beads wouldn't fall off, and they fell off anyway. Ha ha. Go ahead, laugh. I hear you. It's okay. You can laugh all you want because this wasn't supposed to happen, but I'm keeping it in. All right, because this part is actually boring, so blah, blah, blah. All right. So basically what you're going to do with this end is what you did with the first end. You're going to go ahead and put 2 of your crimp beads on, just like this. Again. Oh, come on. There we go. And then you're going to make your loop. I like to leave a 2-inch tail, so that gives me enough room to go ahead and do my loop and pass it through and tie my loop. You can do longer if you want when you're first getting started on doing this, but I've done probably hundreds and hundreds of strands, so I'm used to it. And there's a little bit of give, which is a good thing because it helps in separating the beads after each coat. All right, so that one's all ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and string the rest of my beads. And then when I come back, I'll be over at my bead drying station. And I'll explain that a little bit. I do have videos on how to make bead drying racks. So you can go ahead and look at those to see, the different possibilities, because there are different types. And you'll see the 2 that I'm using right now. I don't actually use both of them unless I'm doing thousands of beads at one time. But anyway, oh, by the way, these beads here, not these, but all of these are for upcoming bead sheets. So watch for those. As you may or may not know, I add a brand new bead sheet to my website at paperbeadcrafts.com every day, and I post I send out a newsletter to my Paper Bead Crafts list through Yahoo groups, and also I post it to Facebook on paperbeadcrafts.com Facebook page, as well as Paper Bead Love list or group, which is a closed group. But anyway, that's where I post the fact that I've done a bead sheet every day. Oh, this one here, that's not a bead sheet. That's just a bunch of beads from scrapbook paper that I'm making, which I've made hundreds of that size. That's for an upcoming project. But these are bead sheets. This yellow one, this one is called, what is this one called? black. Well, you'll see. It's coming. I've got a black one. I've got one with sunflowers. I've got one with forget-me-nots. I have one here with a blue damask. Black damask. Blue damask. And then these are red stars or something, spirals or something like that. But those are upcoming bead sheets. Probably next week or the week after. Well, actually, first week of August 2017. Second week of August 2017. I try to do them a week and a half or so ahead of time. And until next time, well, no, not until next time. I'm going to finish stringing these beads, and when I come back, I will be glazing these beads. Okay, that's it. See you later. Okay, so now I am in my craft room over by my paper bead drying station, and what you see is my new setup for my paper bead drying rack. This is new. The one that I usually use is up there, but I needed something portable because I plan on doing some paper beads with some kids, so I built that one. That is 18 inches tall, and the little drip tray down below is a cardboard box taken from some laminated sheets that I use in my stickers and labels and such. And I just covered it in, covered the rim with duct tape, and then down in the bottom of it, underneath the paper towels, is a sheet of the lamination, the one single-sided laminating sheet. And so that way it's non-stick. Here, let me get a little closer. I'll show you what I mean. If I lift that up, it's plastic underneath. So that's what I'm using for my drip tray. It's nice and clean. It makes this non-stick so this doesn't stick to it. And the blue that you see, sometimes the colors will run. That was actually done with Sharpie brush marker. So basically this is how I hang the beads and to let them dry. Right now this is just the first coat, and I have a couple that I want to show you how I actually dip them. I pour the PC petrifier in this coffee can because it's got a nice tight fitting lid and it makes it easy to dip the beads in there. And then when it comes time to do the Vibrance, I have Vibrance poured into this container, which actually had ham in it. You know, those sliced meats that you can get. They're 2-cup size or something like that. And they're also a tight-fitting lid, so I go ahead and I use that. It makes dipping the beads really easy. So, let's see. And then, to count my times that I actually go ahead and hang my beads, I use my number beads. And right now I'm going to put up the number 1 on the rack here, for the ones that I'm done with for now. And then when I do the second dip, I'll put a number 2 and so forth. So that's what I'm doing here. And I do have a video on how to make these, and I'll link to it below. Alright, so I'm going to back up a little bit here, and we'll get oriented here so you can see me actually dip these. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dip these. And this particular strand does not need any weights on the bottom of it. And I'm going to put this aside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way of going ahead and dipping them into the PC petrifier without getting your hands wet. I have these little tweezers that are kind of automatically, you squeeze them to open them. So I put that one there. And this came from a set that I found on Amazon. And these are just straight tweezers. And I put those on the other side. So that way I can just dip them in there. And I generally hold them in there for a count of 20 to 30 seconds. I listen to my clock that I actually have in this room. And I lift them up and lift them up and dunk them down again. You know, up and down for about 30 seconds. And that way the glaze has a chance to get down inside the holes. And so this is basically how I do it. Keep my hands clean. And then I bring it over to my bead drying rack. And I think you can see what I'm doing. I'm just sliding it on there. I'm going to push it over and let that go. And that one, it doesn't really need a weight on it, but if it did, I would put the weight on after I hung it. So let me go ahead and get this next one, and I'll show you what I mean. I put my tweezers on. Okay, and then I dunk it. This one's definitely going to need a weight. And I showed you how to make the weights in a previous episode or a previous video. So, when I'm done dunking this, 20 to 30 seconds, I'll hang it up and attach the weight. Okay, so that's good enough for now. And let it drip. Drip, 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 drip. Okay, and then I slide it on there. And while I'm hanging on to this end, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my little weights, and I'm going to put it on the loop at the bottom. Whoop, doesn't always work. Alright, I'm trying not to touch the cord, but alas, I do anyway. Okay, so I'm going to stabilize it. And you can't see what I'm doing. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going ahead and putting this on there. And then just going to let it hang and let go. There. And that is that. That's how I do the first dip. And then I'll come back and I will do the second dip in about an hour to 2 hours. I usually let the first coat dry for an hour or two, and I do actually hold on to them and see if they feel dry. If they feel dry, it's okay to dip them again. I used to do it overnight, but now I've gotten this figured out. It takes an hour or two depending on the room's humidity, and I do keep a dehumidifier on in this room, but right now it's off so that you can hear me. And when I do the second dip, these numbers will change to the number 2 bead. That way I number the dips, because I do 6 dips total. The last 2 will be the Vibrance, and the first 4 are the PC Petrifier. Now, PC Petrifier, if you have sensitive skin or allergies or severe allergies, you might not want to use it, or at least maybe make sure that you wear rubber gloves, you know, surgical gloves, cooking gloves. Wear gloves anyway. Have a paper towel nearby so you can wipe off your hands. Also, you might want to turn on a fan, have a well-ventilated area. This stuff works really, really well. When you first get it brand new, it stinks to high heaven. But it's not one of those noxious petroleum type of smells. I can't explain it. But it's not a petroleum product. It's a water-based finish. And there is an MDF, there is a sheet that goes with it. It does say on the bottle that it's skin and eye irritant, keep out of reach of children. And then there's a caution label that you want to read on the back side, just letting you know that it's not for everyone. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't let kids use it by themselves. When it's time for me to do the paper beads with the kids, I'll actually do the dippings for them, the first 4 dippings, and then I'll let them do the last 2 dips, because I'll be using Vibrance, and that's completely safe. But the PC Petrifier, in my opinion, is the best thing to use for a base. But Janice May does make amazing base, which I haven't tried personally, but a lot of people have, and they seem to love it. So if you're really worried about the PC Petrifier, try the Amazing Base. It's probably really, really good. In fact, before Janice May was offering the Amazing Base, she would just mix glue with water and use that as her base coats, and then use the Vibrance on top of that. To me, the colors would run, so because of the water. But I like PC Petrifier because it actually soaks into the paper and hardens it. That's what it's for wood. Hardening wood. Okay, that's it for now, and I'll go ahead and do a little bit more after probably the third or fourth dip, because they do stick together when they're in this state, when they're dry. And they expect that. You can break them apart and dip them again, no problem. I break them after each and every dip, and I turn them over after each and every dip, so that way they get coated evenly. This is a video about glazing paper beads, and this is what I do. And this is the way I've been doing it now for over a year. More like, let's see, probably 4 years now. It's been a while since I started. Actually, I started about the same time I started making videos. So if you've seen my very first video, that's about when I started dipping my beads. Before that, I used to brush them on one by one by one by one, and it would take hours, and I wouldn't get anything else done. So this is the way I do it, so that way during the hour that they're drying, I can go do other things. So the first coat, I let dry an hour or two. And then every coat thereafter, I check after an hour. And most of the time, I'm able to dip them again after an hour each dip. So technically, you could go ahead and start your dipping process first thing in the morning and be done by supper time. So that's it for now. Until they're ready to dip in the Vibrance. That's it for a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, so it's the next day, and I decided to give you a different angle of my paper bead drying rack. And as you can see, I've got all of these done with the fourth coat of the PC Petrifier. And now I'm going to switch it over to my Vibrance. So let's move that aside and move this over. And you can't really see it in the camera. So maybe what I'll do... let me see if I can move this so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll put that over here, right in front of me. And I am going to go ahead and remove all of these and break them apart. But I'm going to just demonstrate one for now. This has got my number 4 bead on it. Let's stick that in there. And, you know, they're kind of all stuck together. So this is the way I break them apart, is I go ahead and I grab a hold of it. And I just pull them. I just pull them apart like this. And yes, I'm wearing something different because I couldn't get this filmed all in one night. Simply because I ran out of time. And by the time I did the 4th dip, it was 11 o'clock at night. Because of course I have a life and I got other things I got to do. And when I have one stuck like this, I generally grab a pair of flat nose pliers and grab a hold of this and pull. There, just like that. Sometimes I can do that with this end, but then it could come loose. So this one's all set to go, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these and come right back. Okay, so you're probably wondering one thing about why haven't I mentioned waist beads? If you've seen my other video, I said that you could use waist beads on the end of your strands to prevent from having messed up beads on the ends. Well, I'm at a point where I don't care. I make so many beads that any of my waist beads can go into a container like this, which I can use in another project, you know, where I glue it on something. So that's what I do with my waist beads. I just accept the fact that there's going to be waist beads at each end. 1 or 2 beads may not be usable on both ends, so they just go in here. And I've actually got a whole lot more. I have a pencil can where I have a whole bunch of waist beads down here in these little trays. And so someday I might use them in a collage, but for now they go in here. So that's why I don't worry about waist beads. I don't have to make them. I just accept the fact that 2 of the beads that I string on, maybe even 4 of them, might not be any good. So of your batch, just go ahead and put the worst beads on the ends and you'll be all set. And then you can use the leftovers for like a memory picture of some sort or in some other craft thing that you do. So that's why I haven't mentioned the waist beads, because I forgot, really. So I got one more strand. Actually, I've already loosened all of these beads And basically what I do is I take it off and I break all the beads apart and flip it over. So that way they get glazed on, you know, evenly glazed. So now I'm going to go ahead and dip a couple into my Vibrance, which is right here. So, like I said earlier, I used these smaller container here. And there will be some crud that builds up here. And as you need to, you can clean it. So, meanwhile, I'll set that over there. And I'm going to go ahead and dip this strand. I'm only going to dip one or two on camera. But this is the way I use it. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put this right here on the tray so you can actually see what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'd move it right off. And I already got some on my fingers. Not that I really care. It's not dangerous. Okay, so what I do is I grab a hold of my strand here. And I dip one end down in first. And no, I'm not using my tweezers because I don't really have to worry about this stuff. And then I just pass it through just like that, and it's done. That's it. That's all I have to do. And I'm going to only do 2 coats of the Vibrance. And since these have gone through their 4 coats, kind of looks impressive, doesn't it? I think it looks pretty cool. But anyway, they've already gone through 4 coats of PC Petrifier, so now I just need to go through 2 coats of the Vibrance. And I did invert them after each dip, and I also did actually break apart all the beads on each strand before I dipped them again. So that's basically it. Paper bead glazing in 2017. This is what I actually do. And I don't know if I'll ever change how I do these things anymore, because this really works for me and I get a lot of them done, and it just works. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.